Rich Hill. A name etched deep into the fabric of Major League Baseball, not just for his longevity, but for the relentless pursuit of a passion that defied age, setbacks, and expectations. At 45 years old, he stood as the last bastion of an era gone by, a left-hander who had faced generations of hitters and still had the fire to compete. When the Kansas City Royals signed Hill to a minor league contract back in May, few could have imagined the significance it would take just 2 months later. This wasn't just a roster move, it was the resurrection of a man who refused to hang up his cleats. Hill had nothing to prove, but everything to give. And give he did. Called up on July 22, Rich Hill started against the Chicago Cubs, a team that once wore his name on their back in his earlier years. But this start wasn't just about pitch counts or box scores, it was a statement. With that first pitch, he became the oldest active player in Major League Baseball, and the oldest player to ever appear in a game for the Royals. It wasn't just history, it was living, breathing proof that the game still had room for warriors of time. But the game, as always, is unyielding. Hill's time with Kansas City was short, only 2 starts. In those appearances, the stat line was unforgiving: 7 runs allowed, 5 of them earned, 9 hits, and 8 walks over just a few innings of work. He struck out 4. He didn't notch a win. In fact, he went 0-2. And on July 29, the Royals made it official: Rich Hill was designated for assignment. Yet, this story isn't defined by numbers. It's defined by courage. Because few players at 45 dare to dream of one more climb to the mound. Few possess the discipline to endure the aches, the fatigue, the rehab, the training, the criticism. Rich Hill did. And he did it in a game that so often values youth over wisdom. With his assignment came the call-up of Thomas Hatch from Triple-A Omaha, a name representing the next generation. Baseball moves forward, it always has. But it never forgets. Not when a player like Hill stands tall amidst a sea of 20-somethings, still firing fastballs, still believing in the grind. And while Kansas City may be parting ways, the question now echoes throughout the league: is this truly the end? Because Rich Hill has defied endings before. He came back after injuries. He reinvented himself after being written off. He changed his delivery, found his curveball magic again, and returned to the majors when most thought he'd faded into retirement. Teams like the Dodgers, Red Sox, and A's all saw value in the man, not just in his arm, but in his leadership, his mindset, his unwavering professionalism. He's one of only 5 players over 45 to play in the majors since 2010. The last before him, Bartolo Colon in 2018. Names like Jamie Moyer and Randy Johnson once held this torch. Now, Hill has joined those ranks, the select few who beat the clock, even if just for a moment. As fans, we're often too obsessed with youth, with rookies and prospects, with speed and power. But players like Hill remind us that baseball is also about stories. Grit, resilience, love of the game. He's walked that lonely road, refusing to quit when every signal pointed to retirement. That, in itself, is heroic. And the locker room knows it. Veterans and rookies alike respect Rich Hill. Not for the radar gun readings, but for what he represents: a bridge between baseball's past and present. A reminder that some men don't need to chase stats because they've already left their mark in the hearts of their teammates and fans. Hill's journey may be taking another turn, but the book isn't closed. The DFA doesn't necessarily mean the end. Another team, a contender perhaps, in need of veteran depth, might just come calling. A pitching coach who knows Hill might advocate for one more chance. A GM might look beyond the era and see the mentor, the competitor, the story. And even if no team calls, then Rich Hill walks away not in failure, but in triumph. He went out his way. He defied Father Time. He showed the world what passion looks like when it refuses to die. From his early days to now, through surgeries and setbacks, he kept coming back. That's a legacy few can claim. So here's to Rich Hill, the oldest player in baseball this season, the latest legend to remind us that the game isn't just about what you do on the field, but about how you live it. No matter what comes next, one truth remains unshakable. Rich Hill didn't just play baseball. He lived it. And baseball,